Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. Today in this module we are going to talk about urban ecology. Within urban ecology we will have three modules. This is first of them. In this module we speak about green patches. We'll discuss green patches in cities and urban areas and why green patches are important in urban ecology. There are several green patches that we live with and grow up amidst, but they are usually unnoticed and unexperienced. This module is an effort to understand urban ecology and green patches. This is the first module based on urban ecology, talking about green patches. The next two modules will be based on urban commons and biodiversity. A part of it also discusses the threats to these green patches. Before we start discussing about the green patches in this module, we need to understand some concepts that are essential to understand the three topics in detail and involve with them. Starting with urban or cities. What do we mean by cities or urban? What comes to our mind when we say urban area? Or how do we define a city? An urban area is a term used to define an area which is a city or a town or a metropolitan space. Most inhabitants of urban areas have non-agricultural jobs. Urban areas are very developed. There is a density of human structures such as houses, commercial buildings, roads, bridges, railways and trams and metros. A city or an urban space can also be defined as having an increased density of human created structures in comparison to the areas surrounding it. But it also depends on an increased density of people. Urban areas are also characterized by the density of the population that stays in a particular geographical boundary. India defines a city or an urban space having a population density of more than 400 persons per square kilometer. India has been rapidly urbanizing since independence, and some of the first cities to be developed were Mumbai, Chennai and Kolkata, as these places served as the centers for trade and commerce during the British period. Delhi was the center of administration since a long time, even before the British colony period, and has developed into a metropolitan city over the time. But what it brings with it? Cities are today known to be concrete forests and have been known to feed on the resources of the villages. Cities in India are also famous for their slums, as cities invite migration and the class differences is a major point in the cities. Industries, malls, railways, etc. determine a city, and for cities like Mumbai, it is said that no one goes to bed hungry. Ever-rising aspirations of those who live in the cities goes on increasing, causing a pressure on the resources of the village. Moving further to understand what does urban ecology mean and why is it so important to focus on the urban ecology. The origin of urban ecology, cities of India or urban places, and in these places land has been precious and has been an important matter of concern as the cities are constantly increasing, and to meet the demands of the ever-growing cities, the reliance on the resources is greater now than before. Urban ecology emerged as a sub-discipline of ecology in the early 1970s due in part to the fact that human impacts on the planet were becoming well documented and the growing size of human settlement were resulting in serious environmental problems that threatened the health and well-being of both urban and non-urban dwellers around the world. Influenced by these events and occupied with the demise of the balance of nature paradigm, ecologists have acknowledged that human settlements are legitimate objects of ecological studies. The discipline of urban ecology is at the forefront of creating the knowledge base, conceptual frameworks and tools that are crucial for building and maintaining sustainable and resilient cities and towns in the future. This module will be focusing on urban green patches and their importance. Further in the paper, we will try to understand the urban green patches, what they are and their importance through the examples likes of Mumbai's Borivali National Park, Delhi's Ridge Forest and Gunduthops of Bangalore. At the end of the paper, we will spend some time discussing about the issues that are posing threat to the green patches that help the cities survive. What are green patches? Green patches also are called as urban greens. These are the areas where there is a cluster of trees that provide for the ecosystem services to the area around it. In cities where the land is scarce, the green patches are the first to be targeted and removed in order to pave way for the buildings and complexes. Hence, many times this conflict is also termed as concrete forest versus green cover. Below is the bird eye view of the Mysore city. Mysore is a city, and the green patches between and around the buildings and structures are very visible in this bird eye view. The green patches include gardens, parks, vegetable gardens, window gardens, small gardens in the building premises, and terrace gardens, mangroves, or vegetations around rivers passing through the city, and also the roadside trees. These are forest area that get included in the limits of the city. One such example is the Sanjay Gandhi National Park in Mumbai, which is also known as the lungs of the city. The national park is in the boundaries and peripheries of the city of Mumbai and is a reserved area where a vast biodiversity of flora and fauna is found. The forest stretches to an area of around 104 square kilometers and has a road passing from within the forest connecting two parts of the city and making travel easy. The forest is also known for Kanheri caves and the Jain temple inside the park. The park is home to a number of endangered species of flora and fauna. The forest area of park houses over 1,000 plant species, 251 species of migratory land and water birds, 50,000 species of insects, and 40 species of mammals. In addition, the park also provides shelter to 38 species of reptiles, 9 species of amphibians, 150 species of butterflies, and a large variety of fish. The role of this urban forest is improving urban habitats and the quality of life. The trees in urban system provide a variety of ecosystem services, including biodiversity conservation. They help in reducing the atmospheric pollution caused due to heavy vehicular and industrial activities of the cities. They help in oxygen generation, noise reduction, mitigation of urban health island effect, climate regulation, stabilization of soil, and help groundwater recharge, which otherwise would have become difficult as the cities, as they urbanize, also concretize, and hence the water from ground level cannot seep down the soil. The forests also help in prevention of soil erosion and help in carbon sequestration. All the green patches or a single tree also serves as carbon sink, which is an essential part of the services today provided by the trees, as it is crucial to address the climate change and global warming and the greenhouse gas effect generated due to carbon emissions. Urban sprawl and densification is an important character that affects ecology and environment in urban areas. Urban sprawl is the unchecked spread of cities into its adjacent lands. Earlier, Mumbai was just up to Sion and Bandra, but with the urban sprawl over long periods post-independence, Mumbai has now extended its boundary to much greater areas up to Thane district, which then becomes the suburbs of Mumbai and also the outskirt or peri-urban areas that see unplanned development. In all this process, the environment goes for a toss, and there is nobody to keep a check on the developments that are happening, as they do not fall under the city boundaries, nor does it have a proper village infrastructure. These areas see major transitions from the wetlands to raising demands into housing societies, agricultural land transforming into the manufacturing units of companies where the access to the cities is easier, where profits are the major targets and not the environment that gets affected in the process. Urban densification that has been witnessed by many cities in India, where the immigration happens to the cities from villages nearby in search of job and a source of income. This builds a pressure on the services that the ecosystem can provide to the communities that live around them. Densification also brings in a demand for more and more space for housing, and again the greens are at a threat, and the wetlands and agricultural lands are converted to the residential colonies. Worldwide, the climate in urban areas has been an important point of focus, and the temperatures in the cities are higher than the temperatures in the villages surrounding the cities today. This is mainly because of the modifications that have been happening in the urban ecology. Such a city may be called as an urban heat island, which is a city or metropolitan area that is significantly warmer than its surrounding rural areas due to human activities. The phenomenon was first investigated and described by Luke Howard in the 1810s, although he was not the one to name the phenomenon. The main cause of the urban heat island effect is from the modification of land surfaces. Waste heat generated by energy usage is a secondary contributor. The causes for the urban heat island effects are the high density of roads that absorb more heat than the green or other cooler surfaces do, This heat is stored then, and the land is heated more than it would have normally done. Also, the high density of taller buildings in the urban areas allow the rays of the sun more surface areas to reflect upon before being reflected back to the atmosphere, and hence causes the temperatures to increase higher than the normal levels in the cities. This allows more heat to be trapped and the temperatures to rise. There are increasing number of glass surface buildings coming up as commercial buildings, and hence it is also contributing towards the urban heat island effect. In all this, the green cover provides one option to absorb the extra heat that is generated then and gives a cooling effect. Green cover is hence essential to avoid the impacts of the increasing heat on health and environment in urban areas. It provides the regulatory services to the cities. One of the health impacts of the increasing heat or temperatures is skin rashes and problems such as sunburns, sunstroke, etc. etc. Moving to the next section on where are the urban green patches found and what are their characteristics, we described previously about the urban forest through the example of Sanjay Gandhi National Park. Now here we shall further discuss the other types of patches, green patches, commonly found in Indian cities. Street trees. Street trees or trees on the pavements have an essential role to play, but they are constantly reducing in numbers as our streets are being widened and buildings are increasing. Recently, more and more trees have been chopped off, and many trees have been falling during heavy rains and fast winds in monsoons. That is because in cities we are rapidly concretizing, due to which the transfer of nutrients from the atmosphere and the soil doesn't take place, which eventually makes the trees weak and get uprooted. These trees have high ecological value and also helps to keep our air clean, increasing the oxygen that we get and increasing the urban biodiversity. Gardens and parks both have an aesthetic value attached to it. They are generally called as Upavan in Hindi. These are examples of Upavans around the cities like Mahim Nature Park and Sagar Upavan in Mumbai and many other parks. National parks that now fall in the urban areas in India have transformed into recreational areas and also a tourist spot. These parks now serve as ecotourism places and also are seen to have more human and environmental interactions to help the humans to feel close to the nature and environment. The zoos have adopted the gardens and parks that is attracting more visitors to the zoos. Then there are also urban lawns. The urban lawns are architecturally designed to make the buildings appear good and nice looking. These lawns have a particular types of ornamental grasses and shrubs and a controlled growth of plants. The lawns also have high aesthetic value attached to it. These lawns serve as playgrounds for children in the residential societies, meeting points where mostly women come together to talk and interact in evening, etc. These lawns act as buffer zones between the pollution in the surrounding and the buildings, as it serves as a patch to remove polluting particles from surrounding and give out oxygen. Lawns also help in dealing with stress levels of people living around. It is also a source of income for at least one family or who are appointed to take care of these lawns. Terrace gardens or terrace farming is a recent phenomenon that has been quickly moving into the lives of people, especially from the higher classes. These are patches where the vegetables are grown by the residents, but other than that, these patches help keep the building cool and acts as a buffer for the urban heat island effect. There can be variety of vegetables and medicinal plants that can be grown in this patch. Then there are gardens and parks. Parks and gardens are used interchangeably and sometimes are confusing. There can be national parks and local parks. They are basically defined to have recreational values and can have walking tracks and other activities that go on in the areas around. Gardens are found around the residential areas and are home to many species of plant and biodiversity. This would mostly have lawns for the communities to sit and also walking path. Apart from being socially important as a community common, it is also environmentally important as it helps in maintaining the environmental temperatures and urban biodiversity. Naturally occurring green covers like Gunduthorpes found in Bangalore are essentially green patches that are found near the lakes that serve great amounts of ecological services, that are regulatory services, cultural services, water table recharge, and also these green patches support livelihoods. These Gunduthorpes are now under threat due to urbanization, where the common resource Gunduthorpes are converted to controlled gardens and parks, fire stations, veterinary hospitals, etc. in the urban Bangalore, and the Gunduthops in the peri-urban areas await the same fate. These Gunduthops are home to diverse kinds of animals and insects, and also the trees and plants. It is essential for such patches to be present, as each animal and insect that are found in such patches play an important role in the environment for maintaining the nutrient flow in the system and maintaining population in the ecosystem. Then there are urban forests. Like the Delhi Ridge is said to be the lungs of the city, and the same way as Mumbai's National Park is the lung of the city. The difference in National Park of the Mumbai and Ridge Forest of Delhi is that in Delhi, the Ridge Forest is assigned the status of a reserved forest. The ridge is known to protect Delhi from the hot winds of the deserts of Rajasthan to the west. It is also the home to a wide number of birds. These ridges were once at the threat of being encroached upon and developed to meet the demands of urbanization, but because of constant efforts and protests, the ridge has now been under the status of protected area. This still doesn't mean that there are no threats that are posed by the developers to the ridge. In the economic growth and development oriented society, the urban forests are valued on the productivity indicators of the forests, how much revenue it can generate and what values it has. A forest with low income and benefits shows less focus of people and gets degraded faster. There are some of values that forest provides to people. Then there are urban mangrove patches. There are many cities that have developed around the sea patches with mangroves. Mangroves are highly essential for the coastal economy and also the survival of the city, as it forms a buffer zone that protects the cities from the sea ingress. Mangroves provide the ecological services provided by the trees and forests, but beyond that, the mangroves also help to keep the shore and the beaches lively and supports a wide range of livelihoods. Mangroves are the nurseries for fishes and are crucial in the ecological system. They are an essential part of maintaining the food chain and the environment. Mangroves are carbon sinks and the cleansing mechanism of the sea. Mangroves have been largely destroyed in India and other developing nations, causing a threat of soil erosion, ingress of seawater into the land. Marine life gets affected because of the gradual disappearance of mangroves, and also the fish population gets affected. Threat. What are the threats to the green cover of the city? Apart from the threats discussed above of the urbanization, urban densification, urban heat island effects, etc., there are other factors that affect the urban green patches that we have today. The first threat comes from the invasive species. There are many species like lantana, prosopis, juliflora, and other plants that are found in the cities. These species are not native to India, but have been externally introduced to India. These species have excellent capacity to win over the few food resources that are available, like they have excellent water sucking capacity, which makes the other plant species found in the area around them difficult to survive, as there are no resources available to these other plant species. Hence, the other native species are replaced by these invasive species. One such example can be seen in Delhi, where Prosopis juliflora has taken over the traditional species of plant found in the Delhi Ridge forest, and the forest has now been degraded. Prosopis is an extremely fast-growing plant which is not used by the cattle. The only use of this plant is that it provides firewood to the communities around them. The seed and leaves of the plant are both toxic, and when they fall on the ground, it makes the soil around it also toxic. Then there is a threat that arises from land use change and concretization. In urban areas, the trees and other resources are being concretized upon for footpaths, walking tracks, roads, gutter lines, etc., which are choking the flow of nutrients to the soil now. This affects the health and the growth of the tree, and eventually the tree would dry up and die. The concretization also affects the growth of the other plants, shrubs, grasses, etc., which would earlier grow in that place. A huge part of the green patch is lost in the process. Below is an image of the concretization of the trees on the roadside, which chokes the tree roots. Next time you walk along the footpaths, do observe the chalk trees because of the concretization of footpath. Another big threat to urban green patches is over-extraction of groundwater and blocking of the underground aquifers and channels of water that has created water scarcity for trees that earlier grew in the area and survived peacefully. The buildings are now the major issue for the groundwater aquifers and the channels through which the water flows underground. The increasing dependence of the communities on groundwater is also an issue, as the water tables are going deeper and deeper and the consumption is increasing day by day, making it impossible for the recharge and sustenance of the groundwater. When the groundwater tables are low, then the roots have to go deeper and deeper, and it makes it difficult for the plants to collect enough nutrients, and also there is more and more energy that the plant has to invest in sucking up the water from the roots to the canopy. The other threat is pollution. Trees are strong, but they have sensitive parts like leaves and the pores of the leaves that are essential in the exchange of nutrients and photosynthesis. When fossil fuels are burnt through any process, they release in the atmosphere particular forms of carbon in the compounds of carbon monoxide, sulfur, etc., which then settles down on the pores of the leaves and restricts their respiration process. Higher amounts of pollution in the form of suspended particles pose the threat to the trees and the plants around those areas. The urban areas have other kinds of pollution too. The drainage system carries with it all kinds of good and bad nutrients and also toxic chemicals. These chemicals further affect the coral reefs and the mangroves, which are the two most important sensitive ecosystems. Higher the level of toxicity, it also affects the fish population of the coastal areas in which the city lives. Another important source of pollution is garbage and the dumping grounds. The dumping grounds release highly toxic pollutants and affect the groundwater table beneath. These toxic chemicals affect the trees in the surrounding vicinity also. In Mumbai, the dumping grounds have highly infected the groundwater and it is no longer edible or potable. The dumping ground here has highly infected the mangroves and the trees that live in that area. Development-oriented projects also pose a huge threat to greens in the cities, as development has always been given higher priority. One such example is of Navi Mumbai Airport that has destructed large patches of mangroves and wetlands to build runways of the airport. This has been a massive loss of biodiversity and green cover. There are several such examples where the destruction goes unnoticed, as it happens at the individual levels and at a small scale. Corruption also plays an essential role in such processes. Each building that is erected in the urban area needs to clear trees. The example of the Gundu Thops is also an example where the green cover is cleared for the development projects. In conclusion of the above discussed points and criteria, we can understand that the urban green patches play an important role in our day-to-day life as carbon sinks, oxygen providers, as filters from the pollution that is created by our own day-to-day activities, and the services that they provide, which regulate our environments and climate, that provides us with food and protection from storms and sea ingress. The trees are of cultural and social importance also, which we can understand through the community involvement with the trees in the form of get-together places for the community or for religious use called Ashwat Kattes in Karnataka, but are found all over India where the children play, communities get together, and also where the panchayats are held and many more activities are undertaken. Trees, forests, grasslands, etc. support the livelihoods of people from the poor economic strata of the society. Each tree and green patch of plants, grasses, shrubs supports an important biodiversity that is essential to maintain. When these green patches have formed so many complex relationships, it is important for the communities and every person to understand the value and safeguard these essential resources.